Are we live already? Like, that's what it does. It doesn't even give me a chance to say when to go live. It didn't let me just set it up and like choose. It said, here you go. Oh my goodness. Y'all don't even know. Y'all don't even know. How's it going, everybody? Oh my gosh. I am so haggard and I'm so exhausted and whatnot, but I'll tell you why. If anybody's curious as to why, I am dealing with headaches, really bad headaches, but you know, it's what it is. So let's see here. Let's take a look. Let's make sure, so because I've never streamed from this, so let's find out if it's working. Let's go look. You know what's really funny on here versus on my phone? It gives you a tool on the side. My phone doesn't do that, but there's a tool on the side on this thing that lets you like add like filter or whatever. I don't have any on right now, but that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll play with that later. Maybe it helps with like the lighting. That lets you oh wow, the sound quality is really good. Add like filter or whatever. Okay. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. Anyways, so you guys, welcome to 2025. I want to know how you guys are doing. Like I said, my only biggest thing right now, and whatnot, and I'm supposed to go out to Vegas tomorrow. So when I go up there tomorrow, I'm gonna try to get over to the base as well, so I can get in and get an appointment set up. Is headaches, and not just regular headaches, like really bad migraines that keep coming. And I've tried all the different things. Being super careful with what I'm eating right now. Taking a lot of protein down out of my diet right now because it seems to be one of my biggest triggers. And I don't know if that is the case, but it seems to add to the problem. So a few things like peanut butter I've had to eliminate, which is like one of my favorite things to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It also helps like kind of get Carlisle to eat his sandwiches too, but like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches I can't do. No red meat whatsoever, like at all. I'm okay with chicken, and with pork here and there, which doesn't seem to irritate it, but I notice like peanuts, any sort of like almonds, stuff like that. Anything that's got that really good high punch of protein seems to be an irritation. You broke his. Oh, I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean, but all right. So I'm just like I don't know, but I just know that the headaches have gotten to the point where they're not just a problem; they're like a serious annoyance. Like sometimes they interfere with the start of my day. I'm like, come on. I would like to get up in the morning and not have to sit here with, a heat wrap trying to get my head to stop throbbing. Like I wake up probably 4 days out of the week, 5 days out of the week at like 3 a.m. with a blazing headache, which if I don't get up and do something about it, will definitely progress into a migraine. And then my whole day is ruined from there. But, on a good note, everything here farm-wise is starting to really develop. So I've got to go up to take Taylor all of his stuff because he got his apartment. So he needs all his stuff. So I'm going to load up pretty much the majority of his stuff in the van so he doesn't have to get a U-Haul and come back down here. So I told him, I said, we'll get you down here and get his stuff that I have here, take it up there. While I'm there, go over to the base. So I can go over to the military base and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just like, we're gonna also get outside and we're going to start putting the stuff down to make a second like big pen and coop. So we're making another run for all the roosters. So if you guys haven't been here or you're new here, we bought this place. What are we at now? This is now February, so we're 10 months. 10 months ago, we moved in here. God, it hasn't even been a year yet. No, I'm wrong. 9 months, because it's May is when we moved in. So 9 months ago. God, we've only been here for 9 months. How does it feel like we've been here much longer? But 9 months ago, we bought this place, and I knew that when I bought it, I wanted to do farming. That was the whole reason we bought the big property and the land and everything. So we got hogs, we got eggs that I hatched and now have, let's see, how many do we have right now? We have 24 birds. Right now, 8 of them, the lucky 8, are in my kitchen, or dining area, I should say. They're in the dining room, in their brooder, because I did have them in here, but I have an allergy to pine. It's not like a deathly allergy, but it is an allergy nonetheless. One that just tears me up. But with the babies, they need to be on some kind of bedding, and the hemp bedding is so expensive. But the pine bedding's super cheap, and you don't want to give them like paper bedding, because then they try to chew on that and eat that, and the ink and all that kind of stuff's really not good for them. So they have pine bedding. Well, we got the lucky 8 in there. I got 16 more outside, and out of the 16, 6 of them are roosters. Or the odds, right? I mean, the odds are pretty good when you hatch. So the fact that when we hatched the 18 out, we ended up with 8 roosters, 10 hens. 2 of the roosters, which were my most aggressive roosters, they were the ones that just weren't all that kind. We went ahead and rehomed them. They could have easily become, freezer camp little buddies, but we decided, because they were so young, at the time they were only 14 weeks old, but they weren't the nicest to the rest of the flock. So those 2 got rehomed so they could be with their own girls. And then we have the 6 boys out there. Now, 2 of my boys, which was really funny. If you guys saw the thing that I posted the other day, I posted a short asking for help with names for 2 of the roosters, because everybody else had a name, but those 2 roosters, I just could not, for the life of me. Hi there. I'm going to say, sorry, I have the worst eyesight. So Eshan, okay. Hi there. Sorry if I butchered your name. So here comes the baby. I could not figure out names for the life of me. So I posted it on my Facebook, on here, and on TikTok, seeing if anybody could figure out names for these boys, because one of them, he's the smallest of the entire group of roos, and he's beautiful. He's like white with like a bit of yellow to like his neck area, and then bright green tail feathers, like beautiful thick emerald green tail feathers. I knew he was going to do that. So my cousin, I knew that was going to happen. That's so funny. We're sitting here talking about it. But my aunt saw the post, and I had done the video showing both roosters. And the other one is really, he's huge. He's the biggest one in the group. He's absolutely stunning color-wise. He's like a really, really beautiful, like creamy gray color with black, like a black head. And then he's got some black right down his back. Beautiful rooster, just gorgeous. And those 2 boys are super, super gentle, right? They're like the biggest, the big one, he's just like the biggest gentle giant. He's gentle with the ladies. He's such a sweetheart. And then the other one, he likes to dance around for the girls, which is him saying, I like you and I'd like permission, because they're getting to the point of being laying age. And Hi, baby. Well, I think Mama's in charge of that baby. And she says that's after nap. I know, but she says that's after nap time. I know, but it's for after nap time. I know. Well, don't get mad at me about it. I bet you Mama's got goodies for you. He's mad. But, sorry, guys. But anyway, my aunt saw the post, and she was like, oh my gosh. Tanner and Ralph, or Ralph and Tanner, and I was like, oh my God. And that's my cousins, right? Those are my two cousins from my auntie. And I was like, that's perfect. Because my cousins, though brothers from both parents being the same people, both of them look absolutely different. My older cousin, he's got the dark brown hair, the rich colored skin, and then you've got my cousin Tanner, who is got the really light colored hair. He's he's a little bit smaller framed. It's super funny, and I was like, that is so perfect because one of my boys has the dark head, the other one has the light yellowy head, and I was like, that's perfect. And I have two girls in the flock that I still hadn't picked a name for, and the one, she's like white and cream colored, and I ended up naming her Bridget, which is after my cousin Ralph's wife. And the other one, she looks exactly like the other Rue, but the only difference is because he's a rooster, he has the added yellow color and the bright green tail, whereas she is white with the black, like the white and black markings on the neck, and her tail is like a muted green because females don't have that really bright, shimmering, glossy look to them. They're kind of more matted for protection purposes. Just like in any animal kingdom type situation, the males are a bit more colorful. And so she's named Clara. So we've got Clara, Bridget, Ralph, and Tanner. I was laughing because I thought it was so fitting that I didn't even think of doing that when I really should have. But we have a couple of our other ones that I named yesterday, and I could not quit giggling because we got Tracy, Becky, and Gina, and they are my three. They're like solid black, but each one of them, their face and their butts, like their butt feathers, their little tail feathers, are totally different. Gina, she's got the perfect back end, right? She's got the tail feathers that come out just right. She's, the way she's built, she's like the perfect specimen of her breed of chicken, like the way that her group looks. Then you've got my other one, which I named Tracy, and she is got like, what do you call it? She's like no tail feathers. Like it's like she just comes down and then it's like just blunt. She doesn't have any tail feathers. It's just short little booty feathers that are on there. And so I named her Tracy because she's tiny Tracy. And then the other one, she's kind of got some tail feathers. They're a little bit on the short side, but they're not too short. But her back end, what we would call saddles on the male, which females don't have saddles, but right where saddles would come in on a male, she's just really thick back there. Like she has layers upon layers of feathers right there, which made her look quite thick on the back end. So we called her Becky. Becky with the big butt. And so there's reasons everybody has names, and so you can recognize each of the girls by their shape or the way their face is. We have Freddie and Georgie, which are my two Rhode Island Reds. It's easy to tell them apart now. At first, you couldn't tell them apart at all because they hatched side by side in their eggs. They have, if I remember correctly, both of them were laid by the same mom. And so they have, like, they're identical when they were little, to every little detail when they were little, other than the mark on both of their faces. One had the little bit of white just around the eyes, the other one did not. But as their feathers came in, you couldn't tell the difference between them at all. So I just called them Freddie and Georgie, as, the little redheaded twins. Now that they are coming into maturity for egg laying, Freddie has like her feathers right near her, like her wing area, just where her wings start to come into like the length, right in that spot. she's got really dark, rich red right there, almost so red that it looks like it might have a hint of black mixed in, whereas Georgie's is just all red. Like there's no darkening of the color there. She's more lightly colored versus the darkening right on the wing. So they're easy to tell apart now. And Sweet Red, my very first egg I ever hatched, she has a perfect, what we call, what's it called? Her crown. There's another name that they have for it, but her comb right on her forehead is perfect. It's a perfect comb. Um, just sits straight down, perfect little perfection, right? And it's very noticeable on her because it's like between the three red girls, she was my first one to hatch, and she's the one that has that perfect comb. The other two have flat combs, so they're just very tiny raised bits, but not like noticeably big. And then my one other solid black girl, like, and I mean solid, she has no other color on her, except her comb, and her comb is just like Sweet's comb is. It's perfect. It's like the perfect comb. So you can pick her out of the entire crowd of all the black girls that go together, because her comb is perfection. The other ones don't have that. They just have the flat area. So most of them don't have that. The females that I have, almost all of them, except for two. The rest of them don't have really any kind of standout comb, just a nice little flattened area on their foreheads. So really friggin' cool. So it's so funny how you become attached to them, like the Lucky Eight. The Lucky Eight, who have a couple of them have names. So the Lucky Eight are, surprisingly to me, here. We had right on day 18 going into day 19, which was lockdown day. We were getting ready to do lockdown. We were going to take out the turntable, get the bedding part put in there so to put the eggs in. And we got everything set up to do that. And I went to go open, like to go get the incubator, and realized that the power was off on it. Don't know how long the power was off on it. It had to have gone out at some point in the night between 2 a.m. and like 7, 8 a.m., right in that window. So a good 6 or more hours, they had no power on the incubator. And I literally went into panic mode because, I've only hatched, they were my 6th hatch. And so I kind of went into full-blown panic mode thinking, oh my God, I've killed the chicks. Because they were ice cold, like ice cold. And there was no more humidity in the container. And so all I kept thinking is, they're cold, and now there's no humidity, which can cause them to shrink wrap, and which will kill them because they won't be able to get out of their eggs. And so I panicked. I started crying. I called my neighbor and went online trying to find out, like, hey guys, how do I fix this? Is this fixable? Are they going to be okay? And my neighbor reassured me. She says, look, mama gets off the eggs several times during incubation to go eat, go to the bathroom, stuff like that. So them being without that will be okay. Sometimes mama will even get up and leave for 24 hours if she's taking and trying to deter someone away from her nest. So there are times where the chickens do get off their eggs and the incubation period kind of stales out for that day, or slows down a little bit, because of course as they cool, things kind of slow down for a minute. And I was like, okay, let's just get them back into the incubator, get the other one nice and up and going, put them in and let it work its way up so you don't shock them, because of course they were now cold and they've gotten cold slowly. And so you want to bring them back to heat a bit slowly. So I was like, okay. And then we did that. And later that night I checked them, and a couple of the eggs were super dark. So the green eggs are green colored blue eggs are really hard to see inside of. You would think they'd be easier because they're a lighter colored shell, but they are the hardest ones to look into and to candle. So I candled the eggs. Out of the 8, 5 of them I could see movement inside of. So I was like, okay, cool. The other 3 couldn't see a thing. Just there was no way to see inside of them. And so I was like, okay, well, why not? So day 19 went by, day 20, hatch days, day 21, nothing. I'm like, okay, you're not supposed to open the incubator on those last couple of days. You're supposed to just leave them in there so that way they, everything stays trapped in there. And I was like, okay, so maybe, when I did that, they probably didn't make it. The end of day 21, I look in there, getting ready to go to bed and check, make sure water levels are good on it. And one of them had pipped, and it was one of the ones I could not see inside of. So then from that, I was, of course, awake, because I was like, I have to make sure at least one of these babies makes it out. All 8 hatched, all in a 27-hour period. So you have a couple that are hatched on the 22nd, and then the rest of them. So we had 2 of them that hatched on the 22nd, the very end of the night. So I think like 10 and 11 o'clock. And then the rest of them hatched from about 2 in the morning until about 2 in the afternoon of the 23rd. So we just dub everybody's hatch day the 23rd. So that way we keep the record. So the 2 that are born literally a couple of hours before the 23rd, we just their birthdays into the 23rd. So one of them, which was crazy because it was a Rhode Island Red egg. We know it came from her Rhode Island Red, and her rooster is a Rhode Island Red. She doesn't have any other roosters. So the Rhode Island Red rooster is the dad of all the chicks. But mom is a Rhode Island Red. She knows who lays that egg. But the chick came out like what we would consider white. So it's like a really light pale yellow chick, which is not what a Rhode Island Red chick should look like, though it does have the orange beak and orange legs. So we were like, okay, well, was looking into stuff, and apparently it can be a genetic misstep in them. So we're like, okay, well, the chick is now getting its getting its feathers in, and the feathers are coming in just like Hedwig's did. And Hedwig's one of our roosters. But Hedwig's color, like the brown color on Hedwig, didn't happen until Hedwig was like between 10 and 12 weeks old, when like a second set of color started coming in on the wings. On the feathers. And I was like, what is happening? Went from pure white to having like the yellowy neck and brown, like chunks all over his back. So I was like, okay, so this one though is feathering in, and the brown is coming in at the edges of the feathers as they're coming in, but the feathers are white with touches of brown. They are 2 weeks old they'll be 2 weeks old tomorrow. And so I'm watching closely with all of them, because one thing that I've learned from raising the first, 5 batches of chicks that hatch, it's quite easy to tell who the roosters are when they get to about 3 to 4 weeks old. One, because the males will start to get their combs in, and their combs will come in pink and like go pretty red by 4 weeks old. They'll start to definitely have color in their comb. Whereas the females' combs do not change to red until they're ready to start laying eggs. So, which has been true. Someone else had told me that, and I was like, okay, I'll watch for that. And I look at all my girls who are just now coming into laying age, and all of their combs have gone from being like flesh colored, kind of like, I don't know, the color of their skin color, to now all of them are starting to get very bright pink and red combs. And I'm like, holy cow, it's so true, because all of my girls are just now starting to get that color. Whereas my boys, all my roosters, had bright colored combs all by the time they were 6 weeks old. So it was super noticeably different. And I look back at like photos and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my God, they're not wrong. They definitely had color in their combs. And so that is something I'm watching for with the Lucky 8. So Lucky 8, I'm going to be watching closely. I'm really crossing my fingers that they're all hens, but that's like that's asking a lot out of a clutch of 8 that hatched. We put 12 in the incubator, and 3 of them were completely non-fertile eggs, so, or fertilized. They were fertile, but they were non-fertilized. So those 3 girls, the rooster didn't, I guess you could say, didn't do his job. Those 3 eggs were just, they just didn't have a chick at all developing. The other one, it got to, I think it was day 14, and we checked it, and it looked like it had probably stopped developing somewhere around day 7 or 8 into development. Because when I checked them on day 7, that's when we knew that the other 3 were definitely not fertilized. There was nothing in them. But the one, I was a little questioning about that one at the time, because I only check them now on day 7 and day 14, and then I check them right before I lock them down, so that I do just minimal handling of the eggs. But the one that showed that it was fertile and had development on day 7, it matched everybody's development. I was a little concerned because I didn't like the way the little area around the air cell looked, and I was like, that's a little question, but I'm gonna put it back in, and we'll see how, maybe that'll correct itself. But on day 14, it was very clear that either on day 7 or the very next day, it had literally quit developing. So I was like, okay, well, we lost another. So 8 of them made it to hatch day, which was crazy, especially after the incubator failure. So this time around, because we have more eggs coming from my neighbor, she's going to be, what do they call it? She's going to be processing her flock. So with processing the flock means that she will no longer have those birds. And so I called her and asked her, did you already process? And she said, not yet. We just got back from one of the gun shows, and we haven't had a chance to yet. And I said, okay, I'd like to get one more collection of eggs from you, like a big collection of eggs, whatever, I mean, however many you can spare, that doesn't interfere with your guys' need for eggs. Whatever you guys can spare, I'd like to do one more hatch out of your girls. And she said, absolutely, that's totally fine. I'll have you eggs in a couple of days. And I was like, cool, because it takes a couple of days of collecting everything. So I told her, whatever amount you can bring me, I will take them. And the reason why I tell her that I want them for hatching specifically versus the ones I get from her for eating is because when she collects them, they wash their eggs and refrigerate them, because they do take them to the fairs and they do sell their eggs. So I buy eggs from her. So I always get to buy eggs from her before she goes off to the fair. But when I want ones for hatching, which I pay her for those as well, she does not wash those eggs, because you do not wash them before putting them in the incubator, like at all. You'll expose the chicks and the developing embryos to bacteria. And this thing is driving me nuts. Sorry. So that's one of like the biggest things with hatching, is the eggs have to be unwashed. So she knows that when she's going to collect for me to hatch, she doesn't wash those ones. She just collects them, sticks them pointy end down in the cart and gets everybody kind of lined up. And then when she's got usually a dozen, she'll bring them to me. And so we'll see how many she gets this time. So I'm actually quite excited, because this will be the last batch from these ladies. So this is kind of like, making sure we've got some of those girls honored and whatnot. And her chickens are such, like, for the most part, such sweethearts. So she's got a good breed of chickens over there. And she's keeping all her Rhode Island Reds. But out of all the eggs we've hatched, I remember when she and I first discussed getting eggs, I told her that I really, really loved her Dominics, which are Barred Rocks. They are stunning birds. Like, I don't know what it is about them, their pattern, whatever, but they are gorgeous birds. And I really wanted to hatch the Barred Rocks and some Rhode Island Reds. And she brought me a bunch of Rhode Island Reds, some Easter eggers, and whatnot, of what she was pretty sure were the Dominic eggs. Everybody hatched in the first 5 hatches, and not a single one of them, none of them, came out as a Dominic. Even in the eggs that we were certain were a Dominic, ended up only being solid black, which we think what happened there was that Dominic birds, the hens, were when they were moving the birds to do the new big, huge runs. Uh, they had let them all go out to free range, and on their property they have a little tiny black silky rooster, solid black, but he's not kept with the girls. And they think what happened was is while the girls were free ranging, he sneakily got in there and got quite a few of them. And we all get a giggle about it now because 4 of my girls are solid black through and through. One of the roosters I gave away was definitely a silky mix. One of the Easter eggers had that one. He was gorgeous, but he also had the big mohawk poofy head. Hilarious. But he also had the fuzzy feet. So his legs and feet had feathers all over them. So we now know that the silky definitely got a couple of them, which is quite funny. So we know that the darker girls are definitely from the Dominic eggs, because those are the only root, like, she only has Dominic's, Rhode Island Reds, and a couple of Easter eggers, what we call EEs. And so she knows like who lays what eggs. Like her EEs lay either a light green to a really beautiful pale blue colored egg, and some of them lay like a really almost pinkishy whitey cream colored egg, so they're like super light, but the bloom on them makes them look like they're like a pastel pink. And then all her Dominic's lay more of like a rich brown colored egg, and her Rhode Island Reds lay a dark brown egg. And so we're like, okay, so we know like who lays what. But this time around with the 8, 2 of them hatched out of the like darker brown, like the rich brown colored eggs. The 2 that came out of those 2 eggs are definitely Dominic's, and I am excited. Like I'm like, oh my god, yes. They are so pretty. Their barring is coming in, which is stunning. I love it. I'm watching their wings grow and whatnot. So we have the white one that's in there, so all the little white feathers, a little bit of creamy color coming in. Sarah has named that one Chickpea. We don't know if Chickpea is a male or a female yet. Like I said, they're still just a little bit too young to know. So we got Chickpea. We've got Tater Tot. And Tater Tot got the name because Tater Tot, like Carlisle calls Taylor Uncle Tato. It's quite cute. So Uncle Tato, his birthday was the 20th of January, which was kind of right in the window that the chicks should have been born, but none of them hatched until the 22nd and 23rd. But I told him that the most unique chick in the group was going to get named Tater Tot. And one of the eggs was like really, really tiny, which she is blown because she doesn't have a clue which one of her birds laid such a small egg, because none of them lay tiny eggs like that. But then again, they are getting older, and sometimes they start to kind of back off on production. Sometimes production of their eggs isn't always the greatest. But this one, the egg came out, it was really, really tiny. And we thought, oh, this little chick might not make it. But this one hatched. Definitely tiny comparative in the group, tiny little thing, and very uniquely colored. One of my chickens had that same kind of color from the last batch, and now she's like gray with a darker gray head. She's beautiful, and she's named Ash. But this chick looks like she did when she was that little, but not like this one's tinier than she was. And so we've named that one Tater Tot. It's funny too because there's 2 more chicks in that group that came out of the same color egg that were bigger, that are dark brown in comparison to her really light brown and gray. The other ones, pattern wise, looked the exact same as her, him, which I don't know if it's a boy or a girl yet, but those other 2 chicks are like chestnut colored, but with the exact same pattern, whereas that other one was like a light grayish brownish color. Like it wasn't quite brown, but it wasn't quite gray. It's kind of like a lingering in between the two colors. And the middle of the back had like the bit of darker brown to it. But yeah, so we got tater tot and chickpea. And then one of the babies that was hatched is a solid black one. Beak is solid black, feather, like the fuzz is all solid black, and the feet are as well. That chick was born with its toes stuck curled up. And we think it's just because the position it was in the egg, it kind of didn't hatch correctly. It came out of the back end of the egg. Again, that's the second time I've had a chick do that. It came out the wrong end of the egg. The egg was actually quite big, so that's probably why that chick did okay. Came out the wrong end of the egg. It came out with its feet stuck, curled like shut. So I had to take the feet and flatten the little feet out, the toes out, put a little piece of cardboard there, and then used Band-Aid to hold it in place. And the legs kept splaying out to the side, so we just took a Band-Aid, pulled the legs together, and then Band-Aided the legs together. And for 24 hours, this poor little chick definitely was not happy. But sandals and leg splint for 24 hours. And the next day, I took everything off, checked everything, make sure the legs are clean, they didn't step in anything. The good part is that you do that in the first 2 days because they're absorbing that yolk sac. So they're okay because they're not going to need to get to food and water those first couple of days. So thank goodness. Because it took that day and a part of the next day for the toes to finally stay out and stable enough once we took everything off. And now the void is running around everywhere, and we've called it the void. And so it's solid black, which is really funny, and its little crown or its little comb is just starting to develop, and it's dark in color, it's black in color. Amy's was like that too, but Amy's crown turned kind of flesh colored as it really came in. So we'll see if this one is a female. And its crown is like perfect. So if it stays that way, I'm going to guess it's a female. If it flowers up or what we call triple rose, then we know it's a boy because the females don't get that. So watching closely, guys. I'm watching closely. But I hadn't been on here in forever. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of things. One, there's just time constraint right now with little one and classes and the trying to get like a lot of the stuff up and going on the farm has been not as easy with my migraines and my headaches, and I still have a headache even now, and I have a feeling a lot of it's probably stemming from an issue in my neck. And so I'm wondering if that might be the main culprit as to why the headaches just won't stop. Even with dietary change, even with like eliminating certain things, I just am struggling. I'm struggling with my headaches. And I've also, like, my hair has gotten back to being pretty long again. And so I'm wondering if that might have another added issue with the headaches. Either way, I'm going to talk with the doctor again. Try to figure this out because it is quite annoying. Like, I can't explain to you guys how annoying it is to always have that constant pain. You learn to live with it, but it doesn't make it any easier to do so. So, crap's got to get done. And I have things that I love being able to do. And one of them, of course, is being out there with the chickens and whatnot. Today I have a task that I have to get done. I got to go out there and take apart what I call the integration station, which is what we use for when the chicks are going to go out there. I got to take it apart because we have the one back side of it came apart. One of the pieces bowed along the outer edge and it pulled the paneling from it. So it got a really good use. So it wasn't very expensive and it got really good use for integrating the youngest 5 birds into the flock. And so, which is good. However, it is definitely not what I want to put them back into for this set here. We're going to be putting up the new pen. We still have quite a while for these guys. These guys don't go out into the pen until March, so we've got time. But we're going to get the rooster run built because the rooster run is going to serve two purposes. Now, if you're not into farming or homesteading, this might not be the section of the video to watch for you. I'm going to give heads up warning. We're going to talk about chickens, roosters, and meat for our family. So as of right now, we have 6 roosters. Now, one of my roosters that's in that coop, actually 2 of them, 2 of the roosters that are in that coop will never be bred with my girls, ever. And there's a couple reasons. 2 of the reasons are the aggression from one of them, and the other one a genetic issue. So we will not be breeding those 2. The one that has an aggression issue it's because of the type of bird it is, and it is my one that I call Bo. It is a naked neck, or a turkin, what they call a turkin, but it's called a naked neck chicken. And that one is very, he is super aggressive to the girls, always has been, even when they were little and in the brooder box together. A very mean chick. And you don't want to breed that aggression into the next. And also, he came from a completely separate flock by accident. So he was collected by accident and put into our hatch box. And so, yeah, so he is definitely one that will not be bred. So he will, when he's big and fully grown, sustain our family. So that's like one of those things. And then the other one, he's big, he's beautiful, but he's got a major issue genetically, and you don't want to pass that on. So that is one other reason. And so it's like one of those genetic missteps that happens, and we have a feeling I have another one in the flock. And that one, the eggs from that chick will never be incubated. So if it's a female, if it's a male, same issue. It won't ever be used for breeding purposes, but Sarah loves Chickpea, and Chickpea loves Sarah. So even if Chickpea's a rooster, might end up with a rooster on the farm that's just kind of hangs out with us. And then I have Big Red, who I love him, and he's quite the character. So the other boys, as of right now, will get kind of cycled through with the girls to kind of keep the gene pool a bit more diverse when it's time for breeding. But we have the 2 that will definitely stay with the girls until we need to do kind of a genetic pool. So Ralph and Tanner will stay with the girls, and this is the dark gray rooster and the beautiful white rooster. Those 2 are going to stay with the girls. And then we have Fuzz and Red, who are going to also cycle in. Now, I'll have to show you guys later, but Fuzz, the name comes from the fact that Fuzz, one, I don't know why, but he just gives me the feel of like he's a police officer. He's like a cop, which Fuzz is another name for cop. But so Fuzz, but also because he has a full beard. Easter eggers, or EEs, have beards. You'll know that you have an Easter egger by that beard. It's very prominent. And that's also how I know that Big Red is also an Easter egger mix. He's not just Rhode Island Red. So we know that his dad is a Rhode Island Red, but his mom is one of the Easter eggers. And he is beautiful red, gorgeous dark green tail feathers, with a bit of white in that little back part of his booty, but he's got that big beard, and the big beard gives him away as an Easter egger. So with that, a lot of our next set of chicks when we do hatch again will be with Easter egger mix of some sort in them. So yeah, That's the thing. So as of right now, our abundance of roosters will go in the rooster pen, um, or what we call the rooster run, and the roosters will all be housed together for the most part. We may divide it into two separate spaces, because my older roosters, which by the way are all now 4 months old, um, they've all been raised together. So they have their little moments that they pick on each other when there's like an issue with the pecking order. But other than that, they've pretty much established their little hierarchy. And then, of course, bringing in any new roosters may not be as friendly. So you kind of need to kind of integrate them slowly. They need to get to know each other, stuff like that. So what we will do is that we will introduce the entirety of the 8 into a small, what I call integration station inside the big coop with the girls. And they will all stay in the big coop together, get to know each other through that little station. And as they get to know each other through that, and they'll also, the younger ones will also be in between, I guess you could say, in between the big girls and the big, like, rooster, the chicken run, and then the rooster run. So everybody will be able to meet each other through those two avenues. But they will, all the young ones will get put in with the big girls together once integration has happened. And then once the boys come of age, I guess you would say, when they're mature enough, they will get moved over to the rooster run, but it'll be like a smaller area for them to really be a bit where they can see each other, have contact with each other through fencing. And then as everybody has figured it out, then you let them in. Usually at night, you go in and you kind of plop them in on the coop, on the brooder bars and the roosting bars. And from there, they will figure out a pecking order. But you don't want to introduce them until they're literally matched size for size with the big guys, because then you could really put the younger ones at risk. So depending. And then, of course, from there, the meat processing ones will be meat processed and whatnot. So just if you're not used to the whole farming type life, yes, our birds will provide us eggs and meat. So yes, they are my birds, and yes, they have names, and I love them, and I love watching their funny personalities and watching them grow. And a lot of people are gonna be like, well, then how can you do what, how can you process them? How can you eat them? Because I know where my food is coming from at that point, but I also know that we're putting into them and we're receiving back. And so it's a cycle, and that cycle has a purpose. Just like with our hogs, same thing. You don't buy hogs to be as pets. They are not pets. They are definitely not pets. When I go in there to go do any kind of cleanup, whatnot, I always make sure that their food holder has got food in it to keep them distracted so that I can get things done. Because now, when I first got them, they were small. They are now 5 months old, and they both weigh somewhere around, we're probably at the 80-pound to 90-pound mark with both of them. And the male, he will be big enough in July to process. So he will go to butcher in probably July or August, right in that window. But we will be breeding my girl. So it'll depend on when we get the sire here to breed her. Once we have the sire here, we'll do that, and then we'll have a window of when she should give birth. And then when she gives birth, then she will be busy with her young that we can remove the male from her. The male that we have, he is castrated, which will be the same thing when she has babies. The males will be castrated, so we don't end up with any breeding happening, from mother and son type issue. And we'll pick our pick of the litter, and my neighbor, who I will be breeding her with, is going to come pick one out of the litter for himself. That'll be our payment in return for allowing us to use his pig for siring. So he gets his pick first out of the whole thing. Like he gets first pick, and then we'll take the next, out of as a way of saying thank you for doing that, and then the rest will be sold. So yeah, that's just part of the whole process. And then we are taking all of our droppings and making compost, which we have our big compost area dug finally. And then I'm getting that's getting all set up because we got to make sure we put the lining in, all that, and then we're going to start composting here pretty soon. Now the compost won't be usable for at least a year, um, pretty much a year. We're going to make sure we go 12 months, hopefully at 13 months in before we start to really utilize the compost. And that's like that's like some of the biggest changes that we're doing here. So yeah, I've been, we, I've been busy. Um, so yeah, I got a lot of that to do. So I had to go get the 400 pounds of feed out of the car. Um, I will never do that again, by the way. I get our feed and stuff from two places. Usually it gets delivered. However, the one place, their website had an issue. And I tried for probably a good week, called them repeatedly. We tried to do the order over the phone because I always usually get it delivered because that's 400 pounds of feed. That's a lot of weight to put in the back of my car. So I called them, we tried to set it up. It's still, their site just would not, it kept saying undefined, and none of us could figure out what that meant. So I was like, all right, I guess since we can't get it processed so they can deliver it, and it won't give us because the delivery company needs the processing number and address and all that kind of stuff. It would not let it. So I went physically down there and paid for everything. And while we were there, we were just going to say, okay, well, now we'll sign the thing to have them deliver it. And it still wouldn't let it process through. So we were like, oh my gosh. And I'm feeling it's because our location right now just got pulled from a list of things to be deliverable because we're really far out of the way from everything. And I was like, man, this sucks. So I had to put this stuff all in my car. If you don't know, I drive a 2020 Dodge Caravan, a Grand Caravan. So I laid all the seats down and we put 400 pounds of feed in my car. Needless to say, the wind didn't affect my car because the load was so heavy. But we did it. I got it home, but I haven't unloaded it yet because me, I gotta move every one of those bags, and yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. So what I think I'm gonna do is go and pull the car back next to the RV because we've been putting all the feed in here. I'm not a fan of that. It is not my favorite thing to do. I don't like having it in here, but I do know once the warmer weather hits, we cannot leave it out there. It'll just it won't work out. But I'm going to, for right now, temporarily put it in the RV. And then I can just go out there in the morning and do all the feed setup. So I'll go out there today, move the stuff out of the way, back the RV or back the car up, and just put all the feed in the RV. It'll make it also easier when I take it all out of the kitchen and put it out there. The only food that needs to be in the kitchen is the dog food because the dogs are right outside the back right here. Yeah, that's a whole nother mess. I need to call to go take Toby in. This dog. He's a mess. That hair. Y'all don't even understand. His hair is absolutely insane. And he is 129 freaking pounds. How am I supposed to brush this dog? One, because he is a complete and utter spaz. How do you brush a 129-pound dog when you have, well, first of all, I'm only 5'1" at most at this point. I'm pretty sure I've shrunk slightly over time. I mean, I'm not no spring chicken anymore. I'm quite old. And he has plowed me down several times. I mean, the one time he knocked me down he took me out at my legs, running at a full speed, and I was down for probably a good week or more because he had hurt me quite good. Um, so trying to go out there to brush him has been an absolute impossible job. He is crazy active. He's almost 2 years old. So in June, yeah, June 5th, he'll be 2. And I'm just like, can we get to that? Can we get him past the age of 2 so we can hopefully start seeing the more mellow side of him? Because he's insane. We've also been working on tearing the deck down. So that was another project because that whole area is going to become a dog run. Right now we have them in like a small run. And the only reason why, if everybody's going to wonder, if you've watched our videos, you're going to go, why are they not running the property? Because both my dogs dig. They love to dig. It's their favorite thing to do. They make massive holes. And the one absolute thing is, we know my 129-pound dog loves to kill birds. I will not risk my livestock to my dog. And yes, I know you can train dogs to leave things like that alone. And that is going to be something we start teaching him once we know everything is secured and we have a secure area to keep him. So for now, while we're working all that out, he's not allowed to run free in the yard. He will kill my chickens, without a doubt. He will also probably get himself killed by the hogs, because the hogs will kill him. And he loves to jump everything, and the hog pen is only 4 feet. And seeing as our 6-foot high fenced in area for him is barely enough to hold him, he would jump into the pig pen and get himself killed, because 2 hogs against a dog is not going to go well. Whether he's 129 pounds or not. They are both probably roughly 100 pounds each, like 90 pounds a piece now. Yeah, they would destroy him. And yeah. And then, of course, Godric, being the little tiny that he is, yeah, he loves to dig. And I don't know if he would try to kill the birds. He hasn't tried to kill the neighbors' birds, but I don't want to risk it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see him bothering the chickens, but he would be curious enough that he would dig a hole, and then I would have risk of my chickens getting loose and the predators here getting them. Now, if you don't know how the Arizona desert works, we have coyotes, we have ravens, which, by the way, if you've never seen a raven in real life, they're terrifyingly huge. So if anybody ever asks you what's the difference between a raven and a crow, crows travel in what they call murders, which is a lot of them together. Ravens are pretty singular or partner based, and they are 4 to 5 times bigger than a crow. They are huge. Huge. The ravens come out here and they'll sit in our yard staring at my chickens. And if I was to walk up to one and it was nice enough to stand still, for me anyway, like I said, I'm only 5 foot. The bird itself would stand right about its head would be right about my hip. They stand at least 2 to 2.5 feet tall. They're huge. They're huge. Not only do we have ravens, we have hawks. We have, what are they called? Buzzards, I think is what they're called. They're the ugliest things. Those things are like 4 feet tall, big, ugly redheads, vultures, buzzards, whatever. We see those guys out here all the time. They're so scary looking. Oh my God, they're the ugliest looking things I've ever seen, ever. And the other thing is we do have burros and cattle. So we don't personally own burros and cattle. But because we live close to, like, we have BLM land all around us, there are free-ranging cattle and the burros. Burros are just wild. But every night the burros come and they hang out by our backside of our fence, which kind of has been a blessing because we've been just like with their manure right into the yard and into the compost. So I don't know if that's recommended, but compost is compost. So we have just been taking that fertilizer, popping it over and putting it down in the the composting area. And then if we get lucky enough to have the cattle back here, which they pass through probably about every 4 or 5 weeks, we'll see, 5 or 6 of the cattle come through. Whatever they leave behind, we kind of collect that as well. So figure, it's there, collect it. It's just going to sit there. Ain't not like BLM's coming out or the city's coming out to collect it or to clean it up. It's just going to sit there and it's just going to deteriorate. So why not utilize it? So we utilize it. So this way, when we get ready to finally work the ground here, we'll have the compost to do so. The other thing, and I'll have to look it up, we have got to figure out how to dwindle down our issue with the ground squirrels. They are bad. They're so bad. As of right now, they haven't dug their way into the large section of the chicken run. And I'm glad they haven't, because I think they know that the chickens will kill them. If you guys aren't aware, chickens are literal vultures. Like, they're velociraptors. They're little raptors. They kill mice. They kill little ground squirrels. They kill the little, what do they call it? The little, like, we call them kangaroo rats out here. They've got the really long back legs and they bounce everywhere. But the chickens kill those like that. They don't care, and they will destroy it. So yeah, they're little carnivores. Okay, so if you guys are ever wondering, chickens are not, they might look cute and stuff like that for people that like chickens, but they are vicious when it comes to their space and things like that. Sorry guys. So yeah, but I would love to get it to a point where we have everything like secured really, really well, that we can let the girls and the boys out to free range, in time, but have them know that that's their safe space to get to, if any predators are out. So if there happens to be predators out, if there happens to be something that flies overhead, that they know to go straight for the coop and get to cover. So that's kind of like where we're at right now. I want them to be very well trained, and that's where they need to go, before we even remotely think about letting them out. My biggest thing is, they are for egg production and they are for meat for the family, and I don't want to lose any of them to predators that come onto the property. And it would be a really crap way for one of my sweet little chickies to go, is through a predator snatching one of them. Not a nice way to go out. It's not quick, it's not easy, it's not humane. It's very stressful. Sometimes the predator might get them, injure them, but then not take them, and that is not a nice way for any of my birds to have to deal with that. When it comes time to process them, dispatching needs to be quick and like instant, as humane as possible, so that they don't have any suffering. And so that is a process that I'm still trying to learn before I even put my hand to it. So I'm doing all the research I can, going through all the different things that I can to make sure that when it comes down to that time, that it is going to be the most humane way of doing it. And I need to learn it anyway, because if anything happens to where, out here, we don't have like fowl vets. So if you have chickens or whatnot, they're considered livestock, and they do not get looked at by the veterinary hospitals. So they'll look at, like, let's say, your cats and your dogs. We have the ones that come out that look at cattle, horses, and goats, and pigs, but they do not look at fowl, and none of them. So if your bird gets injured or is sick or whatnot, your only avenue is for you to figure out how to take care of it. And if it's a point where there isn't any answer to getting them better, you need to be able to humanely end it for them. And so to be able to do that, you need to know that process. And that is something I'm trying to learn. So that way, if it ever boils down to that, I know how to do that humanely for my birds. So if you're thinking about being a backyard chicken person, just know that there's a whole lot more to owning chickens and to having chickens than what you would think. If you're going to hatch chickens, there's a whole process there, like knowing that they can't be outside for the first 6 to 8 weeks, depending on your weather too. So don't be the jerk that's going to try to introduce them to outdoor weather in the middle of the winter. Don't do that. So yeah, just don't do that. My birds, my one set, they all got put outside in, gosh, November. Which, by the way, we're in Arizona, so just so everybody knows, so nobody freaks out. My birds went outside in November when it was still 95 and 110 degrees outside. They did very well adjusting. They were also almost 10 weeks old. The youngest ones came right behind them a couple weeks later to go outside. So there's only a couple of week difference between them. So we just kind of made sure everybody integrated on the earlier sides. Now everybody's just together. But yeah, so that's something you have to remember is like the first the first few weeks, the first 2 months at most, is going to be them indoors with you. And something you learn about chickens is they cause a lot of dust, lots of dust. And that's a daily cleanup, like a daily, sometimes twice a day cleanup. My babies are getting to that. They're about to be 2 weeks old, which means dust is about to be an absolute horror fest. Now, I could have done like I did last time, which I probably should have done, but I didn't do, is I should have set up the brooder in the big master closet again, like I had previously. It contained the dust. I did not do that this time. I ended up setting up their brooder because I ended up using the big, massive dog crate. The best decision I've ever made, by the way, because it has allowed me to give them all the space they need. But today they will be getting roosting bars, which is going to allow me to put roosting bars in there. I'm so excited. So they'll have roosting bars, but they can't fly out because it's an enclosed space. And it also allows me to keep the heat lamp up and out of the way of all the dust and them pecking at the lamp and whatnot. So huge difference. So with this setup, it allowed me to do that. So now I know when these guys are all done and they go outside in March, I will take that, clean it, scrub it down, because the other eggs will be hatching at that point within that day. So I'll be able to scrub it clean and everything and then set it up in the master closet, which will be where they stay again. And then I'm able to anchor the heating lamp over the one area. And then I just put the curtain thing that hangs down in front of that door that traps any dust. And I leave this door completely open. So that way the heat is in the room itself and not right on top of the chicks. So we just put the bedding in there and whatnot. The light goes off to the lamp is in one side. It's like we use a tension rod that holds the lamp up. The best way I had it set up the first time, other than the brooder box was just not the correct size. The 13 girls grew out of it so fast. So we had it was a whole mess. Let me just tell you guys, it was a whole mess trying to figure that out. We had no roosting bars, so my girls outside are just learning how to use a roosting bar. And that's frustrating because you don't want them on the ground. You want them up off the ground. So we have this square thing. I'll show you guys at some point. They have like this square thing out there. It was in the last video I posted that they sit up on. It's just high enough for them to jump up onto it. But the goal is to get them up onto like at least 4 feet off the ground, roosting. And so we're baby stepping them because they did not have roosting bars when they were inside. We just didn't have the way to set it up. Now with the big, huge XXL kennel that we're using, you can put bars across, right through the slats and like fit the bars there. So that's what I'm doing with them. So they'll have a proper roosting bar. And these guys are already using the little small roosting bar that I got them, and they literally, I posted a picture of them on Instagram, and they're all just chilling on the roosting bar. So at least these guys are learning roosting very early on. So when I finally take them outside, they will actually roost in off the ground, which is a big deal. We don't want them on the ground because the ground gets cold in the winter, and our winter stuff has kind of been all over. We've had 70-degree weather the last few days. What? And then last week we had snow. So, okay. And I didn't even know our area got snow, but apparently we do. And I was asking my neighbor, she goes, "Oh, yeah, there's times where we actually get snow. Like you get snow here." And I was like, yes. But it doesn't stay very long. So, yes. So I'm happy about that. So, yeah, you learn something new. So we had snow last week. We have 70-degree weather this week. It's supposed to get back down to 35 by the end of the week. Our weather is, it doesn't have, it doesn't know what it's doing. So. But yeah, so we will move the setup back into this master closet. And the reason why I say that is because I do have a completely second room that I use as my big office space, but that has an entire closet, which is where I put my other stuff. And then, of course, I keep my other stuff in my dresser here. So that area, I thought about putting the baby chicks in that space. I might use the big closet in the office to set them up this time. I just didn't want to disturb Sarah, but I think if I do it correctly, we'll be okay. It won't disturb her. So I think I might do that avenue of things instead, so that way I don't have the pine in here. But the biggest issue right now is getting all of Taylor's stuff packed and moved out and taken to him. So I might have to do two separate Vegas runs. I may call Jay and ask him to send extra gas money just so that way I can do both. It'll be like 2 or 3 trips to get all his stuff to him. He is so excited because he's finally got his place, and he got a kitty who is my little granddaughter. Her name is Remy. She's absolutely gorgeous. Taylor has always been a cat person, loves cats, always has. And one of his favorite cats, who we had for forever. Oh my God, we had her for so many years. I mean, I don't think there was a time that we didn't have her from when Taylor was really little, was Giselle. And Giselle was just like everything that he went through surgery wise from the hospitals, when that cat, when he got home, was right there with him constantly. She would lay on his bed, lay on his tummy, like sleep right with him. Like that cat, she was a what they call polydactyl, so she had the 6 toes. That was his girl, and she was one of those really dark calicos, right? So she's a calico cat, not a tortoiseshell, but a calico. But his new girl, Remy, who he just adopted, she's a calico, and she absolutely loves Taylor, loves him. She got big chunky cheeks. She's got that really broad set face. She is so stinking pretty, and she's super tiny right now. She's probably going to get bigger because like she's probably maybe almost a year old. I don't think she'll get too much bigger, but she's just, gosh, she's so stinking pretty. And so I took him a bunch of stuff for Christmas. So I got him the cat tower and all the goodies. I got her a bunch of kitty treats and kitty toys and stuff like that. So he absolutely loves her. But he just changed his location. So he was staying at a VA veteran-based facility that allowed him to get like, all set up to find an apartment up there. So he had her there, and she's finally adjusted to that, and now he moved her into the apartment, and she's like, yo. So she's hiding. She keeps hiding under the couch, and he's like, she doesn't need to hide. I'm like, yes, she does. Let her hide. Because he just wants her with him all the time. Like he absolutely adores her. And I said, you need to give her some time. Let her adjust to the new environment. And you have a roommate, so that's all new to her. She's used to just you and her. And you got to give her time to adjust to you, her, and now your roommate, who absolutely is in love with her. He's like, I just want to scratch her. I want to rub her little head. And Taylor's like, yeah, but she's not really, and she's not like, even when I was there, she was like, you're not my dad. So she's, even at the shelter that he adopted her from had said she would not come out for anybody. She would stay hidden inside her little cubby, and she would smack anybody who tried to reach in to pet her or clean her box or anything. She just was not, she didn't tolerate people. So the day that Taylor came down there to look at a different cat, she happened to reach out of her little thing and like pull on his shoulder with her little paw, like reached her paw through her little braided area and grabbed him. And he turned to look at her, and he said he just, as soon as he saw her little face, he's like, Mom, I fell in love with her. She reminded me so much of Giselle, and her markings and the color and the fact that she pulled me towards her. And the lady was like, I can't believe she's out of her enclosure. She'd been at the shelter for almost a year because nobody wanted her, because she just hissed and smacked at everybody. So nobody wanted to take her. And here she was pulling herself over, like pulling Taylor to her, grabbing him by his shoulder, like, come here. So the lady opened it and she climbed right onto Taylor and just purred and purred and purred. And that's how she's been. Like, anytime he tries to stop petting her, she goes like this and pulls his hand to her. She's like, come here. So I'm happy that he has that with him. But yeah, so that's a thing. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys kind of a hello to 2025. Taylor just turned 26 years old. Oh my God, my son is now on the other end of approaching 30. Holy cow. What a crazy thought that is. That Taylor is 26 years old and Sarah's gonna be 24 this year. Like, if you've been here since the start, Sarah was 12. She turned 13 during the vlogs. That's insane. Like, that's 11 years. 11 years. That we've been throwing things up onto YouTube. So it's quite crazy. And the places we've were and the things we've gone through and where we are now is so crazy different. So yeah, I'm quite excited for what we have going on and what we're working on and what we have moving forward. I am quite excited about it. I just, wow, where we were to where we are is huge difference. And I know, like, taking a step back and like walking away from certain things. And I think the last time I streamed, and I blows my mind when I think about it. I think the last time I streamed was right after my sister passed in October, and we tried to do a fundraiser for her cremation and stuff, and that didn't go anywhere. And I think that kind of gave me like a real wake up call about the way social media works and your tribe of people online and who you have and how that all comes about. And I know our tribe here on YouTube are in no way able to assist in any kind of thing like that. Like, their own lives and whatnot have a lot of other things revolving. And so asking from our tribe for any kind of thing like that is actually quite, I guess, is not okay on my part to do so. And so I have taken that video, we made sure all links were removed, because, like I said, my aunt ended up just taking the money that she had built up so that we could go on this trip. We were going to be doing a trip in August of this year. Hold on a second. Ouch. Hold on. My water is over here. hurt when I walk, so I have to be careful. Ow. Where is this piece of hair? I can feel the piece of hair. But my aunt and I were going to go to Italy in August. So I started putting money away. And she had put a bunch of money away. And she just took that and used it to pay for my sister's cremation straight up. We didn't want her sitting there waiting for however long it took all of us to pull the money together. It would not have been fair to leave her like that with everything else that happened in my sister's life. The last thing we wanted her to do was be forgotten. And even though we knew she was there, it would have felt like she'd just been forgotten. And we didn't want that. And so I did that stream in October. And I didn't come back to YouTube the rest of, as far as I know. Like, I think I did post like maybe a short or something here or there, but I didn't come to do any live streams the rest of 2024. And a lot of that stemmed from, I guess you say, disappointment and like figuring out whether or not was this something I wanted to continue to do. Did I really want to come on to YouTube and be a part of that type of community anymore? And that took a lot of, as you can see, months. November, December, January, going through deciding whether or not was that something I would like to do or wanted to do. And I ended up finding a song on the tubes. It's a song I knew very well from Simon and Garfunkel. And it's really funny too because the name of the group sounds so funny because it's from the 60s. But it's a song that when you first listen to it, it's folk music, right? So it's very kind of tone. It's, light and kind of steppy. The lyrics are a bit deeper, but you don't perceive it that way because the way the song is delivered. But a group that I very much so love ended up making a cover of that song, and I did not expect it to hit the way it does because that people keep classifying them very differently. Some people say rock, some people say metal, or heavy metal. I deem them more metal, like heavier metal, because of the distortions that David Brumman uses in his music. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, Disturbed. If you guys have never heard of Disturbed, believe it or not, you probably have. Their biggest known track when people talk about Disturbed is Down with the Sickness. The start of the song is the wah, so if you recognize the wah at the start of the music, then you know who I'm talking about. They did a cover of The Sound of Silence, originally written by Paul Simon, performed by Simon and Garfunkel. And that song talks about communication, right? The lack of, and at the time that it was written, when Simon and Garfunkel wrote the song, it was at the time when media, news media, was first beginning, back in the early 60s. So you were starting to become more aware of things that were being presented back then on the television. So the neon lights is what he refers to as the neon lights. And the neon light being television, radio, and any type of media that was pushing agendas. I'm talking about people talking without speaking, people hearing but without listening, people writing songs but no voice is willing to share because nobody wants to disturb the sound of silence. Because, staying silent and not talking or not saying things and not doing those things allows for these other things to continue to grow. And that silence is like a cancer, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And it just allows things to snowball and get worse and worse and worse instead of speaking up, instead of making your voice heard and standing for something that means something. Communication, communicate, talk to each other. And I think that the lyrics of the song stand better now than they did even then. So, like when he says, they bow to the neon gods they made, the neon gods they made, social media, the internet, the fact that we have the world at our fingertips and still nobody knows how to communicate. We are able to make connections so much easier now, and yet we don't. It's all right there, but nobody's saying anything meaningful. Nobody's listening to the ones that are. The messages that people are putting out there that do have meaning aren't being listened to. And the ones that are like just kind of, you know, brainless, I guess, that don't really have any significance is being pushed. So if you open up any of the media apps, right? So whether it be TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or any of that stuff, you've got all this stuff about celebrity life and celebrity. That stuff's not important. It has no real meaning to it. It's just filler in a space of, you know, silence. And it just continues to feed into that, what we call sound of silence. The sound of silence is deafening. And they're not wrong. All this mindless information that keeps being posted and being shared is stuff that is like so unimportant that it drowns out. It literally drowns out messages of super importance, things that are happening around the globe. There are things that are going on that a lot of people are completely unaware of, because when they open that app, instead of those things that are important being the first things that get presented, it's, you know, Kim Kardashian or Beyonce winning country album of the year or something, whatever. I saw something that someone talked about that last night, and I'm just like, I don't care. There was stuff that has to do with other celebrities getting divorced or whatever. I mean, like, it's just all this, celebrity that, Grammys this, Grammys that, new dance trends, new this, people sharing stuff that their children are doing online. That's not generally important. Like, here I am sitting down with you guys, and hi, baby. Not right now, baby. I'm not laying down. So I'm over here talking to you guys about, you know, my chickens. Mindless, right? There's not anything of importance that you would need to learn about me having chickens. But here we are. But I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to be able to sit with someone and talk about, like, there are ways that you can have day-to-day life that may feel mundane at times, but there's purpose in it. So, like, the things that you do day to day have purpose. The things that I do day to day have purpose. So here I am. We purchased our property 9 months ago. And in that 9 months, we have, you know, built a pig pen. We've built a chicken coop and run. We have hatched 18 chickens, or 24 chickens. We have purchased 2 hogs. We are redesigning our entire deck on the property so that we can put in a dog run that will be proper fit for the dogs. We're going to be tilling the land so that we can start composting areas and working the ground. Every day there's a purpose, right? There's something that we're doing that's going to, in the long run, put something forward for our future, versus being out and, you know, I don't know, contributing to the masses in the supermarkets, contributing to whatever when it comes to putting gas in our vehicles and emissions around and whatnot, the more we can live off of the land that we have and the things that we've got here, the less footprint we put into the other things. And so, you can do these things if you have a mind for it, if you have the drive for it. This isn't a life for everybody, what we're doing here. And a lot of people go, "Are you kidding me? Like, how can you do that?" But it's because it's not meant for everybody. This type of style is not meant for everybody. And that is okay. And that is where communication comes in, and talking and listening. Listening. When I have you guys come in here and you tell me about your successes, and when I get to hear Joseph come in and talk about being able to keep walking, like he went from not having the mobility prior to walking each day, like remembering that and listening to that, and knowing like sometimes the simplest things, what we would consider simple things, is something really, really big to someone else. And being able to walk, just that alone, what a blessing. Oh man. Okay. Okay, so then I'll wait to load the car. I'm not going to load the car up with all that heavy stuff until we know that the other guy's stuff is finished. But anyway, so the thing is you don't realize like those things, how big they are, until you kind of experience them. So back in the day when I was in the service and I got seriously injured, not being able to get around, like being able to walk, being one of the biggest things, you realize like how impactful that is on just a day-to-day thing. When I had to have my surgery on my leg, and knowing that my leg was severely messed up, and I didn't get to walk at that time for I think 8 weeks, and then I had to have a second surgery which put me down for another 12. That recovery was intense. And then a few years later, having injured that same leg again due to loosening of the first repair job, I ended up really messing it up and ended up with 13 weeks of immobility. And now I watch as Sarah has struggled to get through this massive injury that she took. And it's been since October that she got injured. That has been really hard, watching as she has gone through that process, and it's been months. She had major surgery to repair the ankle, and we're still just now starting to get where she's able to get up and move about. And slowly but surely, and she's supposed to start physical therapy hopefully pretty soon, so we can try to get that ankle to flex, because right now it won't flex at all. And it's just been a long, long road. So hearing, someone in our community talk about the fact that being able to walk and still be able to walk, and I think we're now a couple of years in, and it makes my heart happy to hear that Joseph is still doing things. When I talk to Joseph in the chat, and he talks about work wise and having that job, and and being able to successfully continue doing things like that is amazing to me, because it gives me a genuine appreciation for everywhere that I have been in my life, and I see that other people have gone through those similar type of circumstances. Gives me motivation to just keep pushing forward and keep sharing that. Keep sharing that you can, even when everybody else around you says, "Yeah, that may be not a good idea," but like where your heart sits in it. Keep pushing. So I know a lot of my family were like, "I don't know. I mean, are you really going to do that? Like, are you?" And I'm like, "Did you all never listen to me?" And it's very clear that no, none of them have. Did any of you really ever listen to what I've said? about the things that I wanted to do with my life. And none of you taken any of that information. Like all the times I've always said, man, I'd love to have my own farm one day. I would love to homestead. I used to talk about that all the time. I used to talk about wanting to buy land in Alaska and move to Alaska, the middle of frigging nowhere, and put roots down. That's not possible. You can't do that in Alaska. They're very strict about the way that they do things with land. You can't just go and buy land in Alaska. Blit, blit, blit. My baby. I'll wait till he lets me know that, hey, everything is good to go. Because if I load the car and then it's a day or two before whatnot, then I got all that stuff in the car, and I'm not going to do that because I may need to take the baby somewhere, and I need to be able to have the car seat in the car. When I get ready to take him his stuff, everything's coming out of the car, including the car seat, because I got to fold all the seats down. So, but the thing I can do is today I can go in there and I can tear the bed apart. I can take apart the desk, and I can rebox all his stuff into the other room. So we can do that, and then we can load it in the car when it's time. But anyhow, so after hearing that song, and like every time I listen to it, I'm not even kidding, every time I listen to that version of the song, it just hits in your soul every single time I hear it. And I probably watched different people react to the song, and different people analyze the song in probably 100 different ways. And every single time when that build up starts, it just hits you like a wrecking ball. The lyrics and the emotion that David puts into the song is so powerful, and it really gave me food for thought. And I sat down and I said, I probably should pick up my thing again and connect with my community that we built here, because I know that some of the people within this community really looked forward to when we would get online. And if you can hear the baby. So yeah, it's quite the wake-up call, and I would love to be able to be on here and to be able to talk to you guys and to be able to share with you guys all the different things that we are doing, and all the things that are possible if you're able to do these type of things yourselves. Or even if you are interested in trying to start, you can always leave questions. You can always ask questions in here. You can always be like, hey, if I was going to do this, how would you go about it? Sharing information that has significance is important, and communicating openly and talking to people is so important. And not only talking to people, but listening to what they're saying, because there are times where messages are being put out there. People are speaking, like they're talking, and they are really putting information out there, and nobody's listening to it. There's a difference between hearing something but actually listening to the information that's being said. Just like there is talking mindlessly, sometimes I do it, and talking with purpose and having a message that is important amongst people. So I want to be able to start sharing more of the process that goes into what we're doing here. So I would love to take you guys outside later. I'll take my phone with me so that I can bring the tripod. We'll set it up so you guys can see. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to disassemble what I call the integration station. I'm going to try to repair the one side of it. I don't have much hope for that, but I'm going to try. Because I really do want to kind of fix that one spot. It may not be possible, so I may have to just take that spot and do a little bit of a shift in things on there because of the fact that the one piece is just, it's wrecked. Like, let's be real, it is. That one section is just not going to hold together correctly. And I don't know if I'll be able to make a new space for it. It's really not even all that expensive of a piece, so I might be able to just buy a new piece or just build a separate piece. We'll see. So we'll take you guys out there as I kind of mentally go through fixing it up. My biggest thing right now is I cannot put the other roosters back with the hens. We only have 10 hens right now that are maturing out there. And the 4 other boys that are out there in the rooster pen are actually quite aggressive with the girls. And they started yanking the girls' feathers out because they want to do the deed. But the girls aren't quite sure exactly what's happening yet, and they're just like, what are you doing? And they scream the noises that these birds scream when they're being literally plucked by the other birds is like, geez, stop. But the 2 boys, my big, huge, gentle giant Ralph and my absolutely sweetheart of a Roo, Tanner, are the most gentlest of gentle boys. And they're so sweet to the girls. Like, they're just gentle. They don't. Tanner just sits there and dances for them. He gets next to them and he does this little tap, 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 tap thing and walks next to them. And the girls are like, but he hasn't tried to grab them. He hasn't tried to get on them yet, kind of thing. It's kind of like he's waiting for them to say, cool, let's do this. And Ralph just kind of, he keeps an eye on them. He walks with them. He checks on them. He calls to them when treats are being laid out. He's such a sweet boy. He's huge, by the way. And I know he's going to get much bigger because they are only like 18, 19 weeks old. They are still babies. Like, they're not full grown yet. So they're going to get a lot bigger. And he's already super big. And I'm just blown away by his size. I love it. He's so dang pretty. And so I am excited to see where that goes. But the other 4 boys, I really do need to get the rooster run done because they need to be out of the area that they're at. Because they're in a very small kept space, which is technically the coop for the big run. And with the Arizona heat out here, guys, it doesn't get cold enough here to have it completely enclosed. So if anybody ever goes, your coop isn't closed in, it is, but it isn't, because we don't get cold enough here to worry about the cold. Like, it does get, we did get snow here last week, and it does get down to like 35. But the way we have our coop set up is so that when the summer, the 115-degree heat hits, it's ventilated. It's the area that we have is draft free, so I don't have to worry about them getting overly cold. We don't have high humidity here, so we don't have to worry about frostbite because there's no humidity to get the frostbite, so you don't have to worry about that. We have all kinds of benefits of that, and also research, and lots of research. And having my neighbors, I have 3 neighbors here that all have chicken production on their farms, and I've gone by taking their ideas and kind of making like meshing their ideas together to come up with what we came up with. Now, I do want to take and make another structure that will kind of encase our coop that's out there and eventually make it a little more like heavier, solid of a structure so that we don't risk the winds picking it up and pulling it. But right now, with how heavy it is, I don't think it's going anywhere just yet. And we do have it anchored, so it works for the moment. But we want to add on to it so that we have the second space for them. And then the other big project, you guys, the other big project, which scares the piss out of me to do, is I have to redo the pig pen. And right now we have the two really big hogs in there, and the thing that's crazy about that is to redo the pig pen, which means I would have to get it done same day, is we have to, like, the stuff that we need to use to do the pig pen, the pigs are inside of. So we need to be able to unfasten all that and redesign it, because the big gate that's on there, I need it to be their gate for going in and out. And the other door piece that's on there is what I need to use for the rooster hut, the rooster run. So we have to get the pigs moved into something for the day while we do that. And so I want, here's my idea. We tore the deck down, right? So I was like, why don't we take and stake around the outside of the already existing pig pen, right? Leaving them in there, and stake around it where we want the stakes to be, because we have a ton of them. Then take the wood from that, and of course put the ones that come up like this, and then panel it, with the wooden panels down right here. So you literally build the pen out of wood. And then once the pen is built out of wood, right, the wooden pen is done, and we'll just enclose the whole thing with wood. No gate opening at the start. Then from the outside, go through and unlatch all the pieces from the fencing stuff. And after doing that portion of it, where we want the gate, the swinging gate thing to be, leave it right where it is, right, like at this moment, leave it there, because that's the spot where the wood will have to get removed, so we can stake and put the rotating gate in. But then take all the fencing stuff down, because we need that stuff. Take all that fencing stuff down, take the chain linking, wrap it on the outside of the wood, right, and secure it so that it gives it that extra security, that extra oomph that you need, because the pigs are strong, so that you have that extra barrier. Pull the stakes from the inside, and then put your top hut piece that's gonna be this, so that way their area is covered for any weather, and then tack down the tarp to that so that it's water resistant on top, and then lay your other pieces of wood on top of the tarp and screw that together so you have that waterproofing. Then the pig pen would be a solid wood structure with chain linking, kind of, what's the word, corseting it from the outside, keeping it like that wood together, so that if the pigs hit it from the inside, it's going to have the chain linking on the outside to kind of give that extra support. Does that make sense? And then take all of the other fencing and utilize it to do the rooster run, because that hardwire mesh, yes, hardwire mesh, we didn't get the cloth, we got the mesh, is expensive. It's quite expensive. And that is what we need for being able to put the rooster run together. And I have 100 feet of it on the pig pen right now. And so I would really prefer to have that like set up so that the gate, the swinging gate, will be to the front of the unit, so that I can get up there, I can open that, I can go in to get the cleanup done, scoop the poop, all that kind of stuff. We keep the pig pen quite clean. They do happen to kick a bunch of it out to the one side, which I do want to get that cleaned up. I don't like that they do that. So yeah, that'll be a new adventure. So yeah, we need to get that done. And so I would love to have you guys out there with me, and probably Neil when he comes up, to do that. It would be quite nice to get it done. I mean, I did the entire pig pen myself, with the chain linking and the hardwire and the pallets, which that was an adventure. But right now I'd like to get that taken care of. And here's the funny part. You can do a pig pen at 4 feet tall, so you can reach over it. Because the pigs are so heavy and their legs are super short. They can't jump. So, believe it or not, they really can't jump. So, you can have it at 4 feet, even though they're going to get to being like 200 plus pound animals. They can't jump, and that's why, because they are so heavy and they have short legs. So, there's no fear of them jumping out of the pen. They can't even climb out of the pen. They're just too heavy of an animal to do so. So, we can get that pen made. And then I have the bricks. So the bricks need to get utilized as well for the chicken run and whatnot. So, wish me luck. But yeah, I'd like to take you guys outside just so I can go out there, tear apart the other thing so I can open up that space for the girls. I'd like to get that out of there. I don't like it being in there. And then the other thing, I did, when we first put the pen together, the run together, I left a couple of the bushes in there, and I was like, I'm going to leave those in there because that way they learn how to get underneath those and hide and whatever. However, I run into an issue, and that is that the bushes they impede on their space of being able to freely kind of move about. So I'm in the air right now because they really genuinely like kind of hiding around them and kind of being able to utilize them. But when I need to be able to catch one of the girls or grab one of the girls because there's an issue, like one of them needs her butt cleaned off or something, they use the bushes to keep from being caught. And so, which is the purpose of the bushes. However, when it comes to an issue like needing to clean them up, you got to be able to catch them and get that done. So one of the things I do need to go purchase is a chicken net, because that will be one of the biggest ways I'll be able to catch them with a little less stress on both of our parts. Once I have a hold of them, they're totally fine after that. They're just like, oh, okay. But it's going over and catching them. They don't like to be grabbed from above. It's rude, first of all. Predators grab them like that, so it's rude. So I try not to ever grab them from up above. I try to make sure that you can come up in front of them, you can put your hand down and try to scratch their chest, and then come up underneath them and kind of scoop them up and pull them to you, because they have sensitive wings. Like, their wings are really sensitive, and that's another thing I got to do. I got to trim their wings. So yeah, and trimming the wings is like cutting fingernails. So you just, open the wing up, and then the flight wings is the only part you have to really worry about trimming. So the shorter wing that's closer to the body, you don't have to worry about that. It's those longer ones that are right here at the front or at the edge of the wing. You trim that on just one side. You don't want to do it on both, because they'll learn to manage to fly with both wings trimmed. You only trim one side because that kind of throws them off balance so they can't fly. And yes, chickens can fly for short distances, but they can fly. So if you ever wonder, yes, chickens can fly. And the roosters are really good at it. But chickens, females especially, are much, much better at flight than the males are. The males are a bit on their way that they're shaped is a little bit different, and their wings are shaped different than the females. Females have much longer flight feathers. So, a little food for thought there, and a little scientific information for you. All right, so anyway, I'm going to get a couple things done. I still need to knock this headache out. It is still tearing at my one side of my head, and it's driving me crazy. So I think my biggest thing is going to be go lock up the hallway so that the baby has to stay out here, and I can go disassemble that stuff. I'll go do the chicken thing later, but I need to get Taylor's stuff pulled apart so that I can at least get that stuff moved. I'd like to have my office back. I would love to sit down and do my puzzles, and I'd love to sit down and build a couple more Lego builds. I haven't been able to do any of that because the office is literally packed full of Taylor stuff. And I'm going to move it all to the small space. I'm going to take the bed apart, move all his boxes down the hall, which I should just be able to slide down the hall for now. And then I can have my office back, which will be so nice to have my office back. All right, guys, you guys are amazing and fantastic. And thanks for coming and hanging out with me for a little bit. All right.